This is Barry McKnight, the voice of the Troy Trojans. You're tuned in to the Phillip Jordan Show podcast.
What's up, everybody? Welcome into another episode of the Phillip Jordan Show podcast. I am Phillip Jordan, your humble host here on the Phillip Jordan Show podcast. Of course, you can check me out over at the Auburn Wire, former producer of Nothing Was Football on 96.9 The Legend. And we have a fun show playing for you guys this week. Glad to be back. Took a few weeks off. Glad to be back. Joe got married during those 2 weeks. Went on honeymoon last week. Great time in Tennessee. But glad to be back here on the podcast, bringing you some great sports talk here each and every week. We're going to have a lot of fun here. We're going to talk some Auburn football, some Auburn basketball, Alabama basketball, playing Michigan in the Sweet 16. We will be talking Alabama prospect Ty Simpson going to NFL. Dan Orlovsky with some interesting comments there. And what are some potential candidates to replace Scott Cross at Troy as the head men's basketball coach? And then we'll have Zach Keilman. He's our guest this week. You can check him out on the Boys Club podcast. Used to be the UFL podcast. We will preview and talk about the upcoming season in the UFL. That's getting kicked off this Friday as the Birmingham Stallions travel to take on the Louisville Kings, a new team there in the UFL. They had some relocation. We'll break it all down with Zach. We'll give you the new look of the league, the new teams, where teams are going, new coaches. We'll talk Stallions and kind of get some contenders from Zach when we talk to him about that. But we got a lot to get into. Remember, you can follow me on social media at P Jordan Sports. You can follow the podcast over on Twitter as well at P Jordan Show. Check it out there. You can follow me on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you listen to podcasts, on YouTube, of course, Phillip Jordan Sports YouTube channel. And also you can email me now at philipjordanmedia@gmail.com. And I'd like to give a quick little shout out to one of the listeners out there. Found out about this listener at the reception of my wedding. And that is Grady. Appreciate you checking out the show. And please leave a review, comment, stuff like that. We'll get to those on a future edition as well. So let's jump into it. A lot of stuff to get into, really. And look, cover the Auburn Wire. We're going to kind of do some Auburn stuff first, and we'll jump to the Alabama stuff, of course. But with Auburn going into now, spring practice is going on, and just day 4 after Tuesday really looked like with Alex Golesh, the energy wasn't there like it was the first 3 days. So the energy was not awesome. But worst day when it comes to energy in detail. Looks like the team is really looking for some leaders there. Obviously, with a lot of new players coming in, the guys from South Florida coming in, you still have some holdovers from Hugh Freeze, but trying to find that leader and just teaching these guys to fight through. He said the offensive line's come together, and I really looked at it with the offensive line. If the offensive line really does come together as he's hoping, and everybody is, with the run game, with Byron Brown, then you have Jeremiah Cobb, Washington coming over from Baylor, and just everything they have with the run game. I think if that offensive line really gels well together for this team going into the season, Auburn should be really capable of doing some big things on the ground, and that should be exciting. He did talk about Auburn will scrimmage under the lights next Thursday night, and there'll be 3 scrimmages, and you count 8A on the 18th of April. And he has an interesting comment. He got asked about a team motto, and I'm going to play that clip for you right now.
Slogans and mottos, and I think it's a joke all the time, but like what's the difference between shit on a wall and how you actually go about your program? I think when you got a lot of stuff up on walls and things, it's like it just becomes mumbo jumbo. This "Be Who You Say You Are" thing really started it back at Iowa State offensively, and it's kind of gone with me everywhere we've gone. And it's really, really simple. I think it encompasses everything. Like every single person that comes in this program says they want to do something. Coaches, players. It's easy to say it. It's easy to say it in an air-conditioned room. It's easy to talk about it. Like, being who you say you are is living it. Is truly whatever you like. You say you're a leader. Awesome. Lead when it's hard. You know, you say, man, I want to be all conference. Awesome. We're going to give you every resource imaginable to be all conference. Now, you have to go do the work. You know,
all right, and that audio clip comes from AL.com. But yeah, just you be who you are. I really like that, and I think that's a good message for this team to have. And you know, a lot of coaches, people come out with mottos, throw stuff on the board, and you know, just see what's going to stick, and it looks cool and all that other stuff. But if you don't live up to it and live up being who you are, like he said, if you said you want to be a leader, be a leader. If you want to be all conference, be all conference. You know, just do that work to be who you are. And I really feel like Alex Golesh is really pushing that with this Auburn team. Like, you know, be who you want to be who you say you are, and just that hard work and that effort. I think he is really preaching to his team is really cool. You got to ask about some league players, but it'd be interesting there. With Auburn, it's like getting the team to jail. You know, obviously a lot of the South Florida players on offense, they actually know how this offense wants to run, how he wants to do everything. But at the same time, people are trying to learn everything. I've said this, I think the offense may take some time just to kind of get everybody else in sync. But defensively, they should be really good with DJ Durkin and the players coming back. Auburn basketball is in the quarterfinals of the NIT going into Wednesday night. They will play Nevada at home. This is, without doubt, the final home game of the season for Auburn in basketball. Win or lose, final home game. If they win, they'll go to Indianapolis to play in the NIT semifinals and maybe even a final there. Auburn has played well. Kevin Overton's been great. 37 of his 44 points he scored in the 2 NIT games have been in the second half. He's really lit things up for them in the second half. Had 7 3-pointers against South Alabama in the first round. Keyshawn Hall has not been on great. He had a stretch there against Seattle U where he scored like 7 to 10 points when Auburn went on a run there in the first half. But after that, he really cooled. He only had 9 points. So he hasn't played great offensively, but he had like 15 rebounds against Seattle U. Tahad Pettiford, he has kind of had some, again, like all year, but he's played well defensively, distributing the ball. He's done well there. Playing the point guard position. Sebastian Williams-Adams was really good in the game. I mean, he fouled out, but he really brought a lot of energy. They need that with Keyshawn Murphy, not with a team. They're lacking size. And so they got to watch and get out of foul trouble. And going against Nevada, this is a team that beat Utah State this year. They were Mountain West, who was the Mountain West champion, Utah State. This is a team that can get to the foul line like Auburn. They have a little bit of size, so you kind of worry about there. And they do shoot three, and they can shoot well at times. And teams that look good against Auburn doing that. So that's going to be a big thing, I think, for Auburn against Nevada. It's just not letting Nevada's bigs get Auburn in foul trouble because they just don't have a lot of depth up front with Keyshawn Murphy not there. And then also, and the 3-pointers. Do not let them get hot because the thing, Auburn's defense has been a weakness all year. They've made a lot of guys look great, and they don't need to do that in their final home game. See if they can get this team sent to the semifinals of the NIT. Now, jumping to the Crimson Tide, they are going to the Sweet 16 play Michigan. Now, Michigan is who I have predicted to win the championship. I predict them beating Duke in the championship game. Florida's a shocker of them losing. I really still that last play defensively, and then when I watch these basketball games, when you see a team not even be able to get a last shot up to win a game, it's just always a shocking thing. Alabama, look, going in this game, they're going to have to fire a lot of threes against Michigan. Michigan's size I think, can give Alabama trouble. Alabama has been a good offensive rebounding team this year, top 25 in the country. Of course, they're number one scoring offense in college basketball. The Baron Filion, he did not have to score a lot against Texas Tech. He only scored 9 points. Latrell Wrightsell played really well against Texas Tech with 24 points, 7-10 shooting, 6-9 from 3. So they've been able to weather not having Aiden Holloway in the lineup. I think this is probably going to be the game that's going to tell on them with that. And Michigan's been dominant. This is a 33-3 team this year. Again, this is my pick to win the national championship here in basketball. Dealing with the Michigan sides, I think, again, it's going to be a problem for Alabama. Their guards, they're going to have to be far away from three. They hit 19 threes against Texas Tech. They're going to have to play fast. They're going to have to get up and down the floor and just get a high-scoring game. But the guards, the perimeter is going to be key for Alabama if they're going to beat Michigan, which I don't think they're going to do, especially without Aiden Holloway. I think that's going to be a tough deal for them there. Looking at something else in football, Dan Orlovsky, it looks like he's putting Ty Simpson over Fernando Mendoza when it comes to top prospects. And Ty Simpson had a really good middle of the year, but then he struggled. And I still say this. He did not have a running game. Offensive line was bad. I think he was banged up. That's been my feeling about Ty Simpson, because there was one point where he looked like perhaps the best player in the country. And Dan Orlovsky kind of here's some quotes from him about why he's looking at Ty Simpson maybe ahead of Fernando Mendoza. He said, I think when we look at a body of work and what was asked of these two quarterbacks, you have to start with a question. Who needed to do more to carry the football team to play well? Ty Simpson, and it's not close between the two quarterbacks. Who took more games over throughout the course of the season? Ty Simpson, and it's not even close. Just kind of looking back at the season, I don't know if that's true, but also I know Mendoza had a better running game. He had better consistent play at wide receiver, and he obviously had a better offensive line than Ty Simpson did. Orlovsky also said, we're trying to see what you are as a player in college and what you're going to be asked to do in the NFL. What translate? I start with, what do you do in moments of panic with the football? Because that's really what separates good to great. I would tell you that Simpson is more consistent in that regard. There's not a ton of moments of panic out of Fernando Mendoza, and then there's moments where he immediately drops his eyes and becomes a runner. Ty Simpson is more consistent with that. What guy was asked to do more NFL throws? When I say NFL throws, I'm talking 15, 20, 25-yard routes, crossing routes, deep corner, or sail routes. Ty Simpson, and it's not even close in that regard. He continued to go on. Downfield throws, the post, and the goes. I think they're close. Mendoza throws a lot of go routes, and he's good at it, but I think they're close. RPO, get it out. That's probably what Mendoza's offense was, right? And then I think throwing on the move, they're both relatively equal. Ty Simpson is a very underrated runner. And Orlovsky also said, when it comes to the moments of panic, big throws, real NFL throws, I think it's clearly Ty Simpson. I like Mendoza, but I'd rather have Ty Simpson at the 15-20 range than Mendoza at 1. And then also, he go on. He mentioned that Ty Simpson has the better arm, and I would agree with that. I think Mendoza goes 1. He's the first quarterback taken. Simpson's probably going to be the second one. And it all depends on where you go. I mean, I saw early on in some draft projections that he could go to the Rams if he went that late. And I think that'd be a great fit. Sit behind Stafford for a year or two and then take over after that. But we'll see. Dan Orlovsky's been getting a lot of heat for his thoughts on Ty Simpson. But it's very interesting. And he kind of makes some good points there. And Ty Simpson does have physical ability, but there was just some things with him at the end of the year that some people are looking at saying, I don't know about this guy. But also you have to look at it. I believe, again, he was banged up. He was injured. And also with Ty Simpson, no offensive line, no running game. Mendoza had all that. So that's another thing. He was asked to do more to Mendoza because he just didn't have that help around him like Mendoza did. Of course, lastly, before we jump to our conversation with Zach Keilman, you have Troy looking for a new basketball coach. Josh Boutwell over at the Troy Messenger put up an article, a column, and he kind of gave his thoughts on who could be the next guy. He has Ben Fletcher, assistant coach over at High Point University. Some other names he's got: Mike Worley, head coach at Truman State University. Antoine Petway, head coach at Kennesaw State University. I think that would be a really good home run hire for Troy there to kind of keep them going where they're going. And Kenneth Mangrum, assistant coach at Vanderbilt University, which that would be a pretty good one too as well. Cross did such a great job there at Troy, back-to-back years, getting this team to the NCAA tournament. So we'll see what Troy does. Might reach out to Josh, try to get him on the show. I'll just talk about Troy basketball, but Troy football, and some other stuff as well. All right, that's going to be my open, quick 15 minutes there. Just going over a few things that's caught my attention last couple of days, especially with Auburn basketball, a little Alabama stuff there too, and some Troy stuff as well. So all right, so now we're going to jump in to the UFL. I'm a big fan of spring football leagues. I'm especially a supporter of the Birmingham Stallions, as anybody knows me that I am. There's a helmet if you're watching on YouTube right now, right there in the middle, top shelf, the Birmingham Stallions helmet between the Auburn and Troy helmet. And then below you got all the Packer helmets as well. But we're going to talk about the way the league's looking. It really feels like a new league going in this year with Mike Repole coming in, pretty much running everything, way they're going to do things there. So we will hear about that. We will talk about that. We will talk about new coaches, just new rules. We'll look at some of the teams. So it's a good 40 minutes. I tended to think of 2025, but it means that did a good 40 minutes talking about all that. So I hope you enjoy my conversation with Zach Keilman about the UFL. All right, my guest this week, we're going to talk some football. Yes, football is back this weekend. With the UFL kicks off another season, really a new look UFL, almost like a brand new league kind of way it's structured. Now, and joining me, as always, on Talk All Things UFL, Zach Keilman. Check him out on the Boys Club podcast. But this guy knows all things UFL. And Zach, appreciate you coming on. I'm excited for Friday night. Looks like we could have a really good crowd in Louisville for the season opener on Friday night. Let the Stallions go up to Kentucky. But I kind of excited just to see how this is all going to play out. And I appreciate you coming on.
Yeah, glad to be here as always, Phil. Always a pleasure. And it does seem like there's going to be, for the tickets that they opened up, going to be a pretty good crowd out there in Louisville. You know, they just earlier today had put out a statement, had to go through it a little bit, but, said that they only have about 400 tickets left for the season opener, barring they could even open an allotment. But that's pretty awesome. So, good first sign for a new market. We've been hearing about Louisville has been seeming to be this energized market since they announced them coming in. So I imagine league execs are thrilled with the switch over there.
Yeah, absolutely. That was kind of like part of the new look league because, you have these new teams, teams that are gone. The Memphis Showboats, the Michigan Panthers, the San Antonio Brahmas are some of the teams. And, of course, we kind of jumped in. I remember I had you on during the fall football season talking about this because at that time, did you know Birmingham was going to be coming back? What was the deal with Michigan and some of these other teams? But now you look at the new markets, Louisville with the Kings, Columbus Aviators, the Orlando Storm. Just with those three, what was your takeaway, just a selection of those cities?
I think overall they're logical for the most part. I still am a little hesitant with Orlando, but I mean, time will tell. They've had plenty of opportunities to learn lessons from the past. And I would say, in my fairness, it's more of a fair weather market. So maybe if it starts winning, we see like an Apollo situation, people come out and support a winning team. So I'll get that one right out of the way. The other two I liked. Off the bat, Louisville and Columbus were in TV ratings in the past for UFL games for audiences that were interested. So they definitely went down that list and saw where they could probably link up and make it compatible with new markets or markets to replace those they couldn't stay in. And those just made sense. And you're seeing the results, especially with Louisville. Again, already a lot of energy coming out of there. Columbus I've heard at least solid things about Columbus, but I mean, I was kind of hoping, and, the former Panther in me was kind of hoping that they would do it where it'd be a rivalry where you could tap into that college rivalry down the road. So it's kind of weird for me still that, you lose one half of that just to gain the other half in Ohio. So, I think, overall the markets are fine. I think there's not a big deal. It's just, much like we've seen, Phil, can they stick around and just be okay where they're at and grow with where they're at rather than having to switch out more again? That's the whole thing. My Repole has talked a big game that these are going to stay and we're going to grow from here in about 4 years or so for the first few expansions. But I've heard this song and dance before, Phil, so we got to see what actually happens. I mean, I can't really take those words with a grain of salt right now because every few years we see these teams switch out or new ones come in and old ones either leave or come back some other time. I mean, the Gamblers are back, for God's sake, which is just so weird to think about too. Which I'll throw my 2 cents in. I like the brand personally. that being said, they still have an uphill battle to climb because you have enough Roughnecks fans that wanted the Roughnecks to stay. But this was a league created problem anyway when they switched the coaching staffs before the 2024 season, and it basically KO'd that momentum. So they got stuff to figure out. But the 3 expansions I guess 3 relocations, if you will, I overall am happy with those choices.
Yeah, I feel like the city of Houston was in spring identity crisis. For, the 5 or so years. And correct me if I'm wrong. So Louisville, it was Memphis, and then Columbus was Michigan, and then would you say Orlando was San Antonio? Or
I mean, if we're gonna pick them like that, I would say yes, but they also haven't been like the UFL with relocating rosters. That's what's different this time around is they decided to blow up all the rosters except for a few guaranteed players. You were able to keep a certain allotment per team, and then they redrafted per each team. So it basically was trying to allow the new teams to kind of free things up, and those new teams were allowed to take allotments from those specific teams that got moved around, which I believe you are correct with the ones you picked. I don't have those off the top of my head, but they did basically take those old teams and said, all right, look at these rosters. You're allowed to take whatever, you're allowed to assign however many you want from these rosters up to a max amount, and then you'll redraft essentially. So that is definitely what happened.
And before I kind of get into more how the team in the league is kind of structured this year, Mike Repole coming in, you look at his background, business wise, a good move there. Obviously, he really, I don't say ruffled some feathers, but he really, got onto the Birmingham folks and tried to, motivate them and all that, and just kind of like the different moves he is making. Look, I didn't really care for one of his statements he made about players over 30. That kind of that was something I didn't really like, but I said, okay, I can get over it. Obviously, I like the fact that the league is divisionless now. I kind of like that. Just we're going to get the best 4 teams, but that also had each year you're going to do that with 10 games. Your scheduling has got to be really good. You got to do fair scheduling at the best that you can do. We see that in college football where these conferences have got so big they can't play everybody. So just doing that deal. But overall, how would you rate how he's done so far? Really taking over the league.
I will give and this is in complete fairness, because I will be honest, he is not the guy I receive very well, or I react very well with how it's a very on Twitter, Elon Musky type of guy where it's like I try and react to the crowd noise at random. I'll give him an A- so far, just to be fair. That being said, that is a very loose A- that could turn on a dime if certain things don't go their way, or if say things go wrong and he escalates something, because he's a guy, he jumps into the conversation. So most of it's been great so far, but he has also jumped into stuff that's been messed up, like say the UFL shop, or if in the Birmingham situation where I don't know if you remember, Phil, but this is what's burned me still, and I'm surprised this went under the rug so fast, is that that he tried drumming up ticket interest and then basically went on local airwaves and said the interest to even say the Stallions, it was a joke, and that I just got tickets to basically get the tickets going. It was kind of a rug pulley situation in the first place to try and fear people into losing a team. So like that stuff bugs me, because that's definitely his style of business, but it's not. I'm the minority. I'm learning. People are okay with it, and they enjoy him for who he is. And so that's where I'm like, you know what? He's winning over the crowd, and he's also doing a lot of things I like too when I look at it a little deeper, getting some social media attention, getting people in that realm a little more involved. We're seeing a lot more interest from Barstool and people that he knows from out that way. John Gruden's getting involved in, at least talking about the league, and is going to be out at week 1 for one of the games from what I can tell. I think it's Jack Mack or whoever the hell his name is. He's like going to be at like a few games this year from Barstool, but they basically got some people from that spectrum coming in and now trying to get interest. So they're talking outside of that sphere as well. We've seen him do junkets on ESPN and whatnot, and he's trying to get out there, and he's basically the face. That's the thing, and I've seen this song dance before. The Rock did the same thing with the XFL. does this attempt do it right? I even love the concerts too. I think that's a great idea if you're trying to get someone in the door for that first game. Clearly, Louisville, it already was helping, and it helped a bit more. But that's the thing. We'll see after these openers, can they get retention with these ticket sales and keep them up on the higher end? That's going to be the challenge. We'll find out. I'm not 100%. Again, I've seen some of the flash, glitz, and glamour. One owner takes over the whole thing, kind of tries to put it under his wing and strong arm it to the finish line the way he wants it. And we'll see if he's different. But again, I feel bad saying it because I've seen this song and dance before, Phil. That's the sad part is I want to fully buy in, but I've seen the same type of person try this. We'll find out if he's done it differently because I think he's got a bit more business experience than, say, The Rock, with successful businesses under his belt, as you can see with some of them that are coming in as partners now for the league. Junkless Bar, Body Armor, Noble, those are all his companies, which is why I could equate that the XFL stuff, because all the partnerships with the XFL were all the Rock companies. Now all the UFL partnerships are all of Mike Repole's companies. It's funny how that works. That's all I can say.
Yeah, absolutely. Which I did see The Rock put out a tweet.
That was nice. I was very happy he put out something to remember his investment still exists. By the way.
Oh yeah. He is still involved with this. Looking at teams coming back. I mean, DC, Birmingham. I mean, I know that the attendance thing is story. We talked about that last year, but still, the championships that team has won, giving them another shot at this. Of course, St. Louis. I mean, obviously, you got to bring them back. I guess the Dallas/Arlington thing is basically just because that's still the kind of the hub thing they're doing, and you kind of, I guess, it just makes sense having a team still there.
Well, they're all, and I didn't even bring it up in the team changes because I mean, the only thing that's really changed is they changed venue.
Mm-hmm.
And I think they're going back to Dallas because that was what the 2020 team was named, and they're trying to, I think, reassociate with Dallas the overall city rather than Arlington. Arlington was mostly a special namesake because they have a deal with the city of Arlington. And I think, I don't know if I don't have any concrete thing, but I'm either thinking that might have ran out, or they said to Arlington officials, hey, we need to switch this back up. We're still in Arlington. We still are in your building. We're still very much a part of your city and your business center out that way by the ballparks, but we are doing this for business sense. So yeah, I forgot that too, but nicer venue, I would say. I mean, last time I went to Choctawville, it's falling apart. The Texas Sun is doing a number on that place, and it's a necessary upgrade. That's one that had to happen, I think.
And I want to save the new Stallions coach when we actually talk about the Stallions, because I had some feelings. And for people watching on YouTube or anywhere I post a video, it is not because of the shirts you see I'm wearing. Just go ahead and throw that out there right now. But the rest of when you look at, I mean, the only guy that's backed with his team is Shannon Harris with the DC Defenders, because you got Anthony Beck going from St. Louis to Orlando, and then you got, like, with Columbus, Ted Ginn Jr., which Ohio State superstar. I know Bob Stoops, is now gone from the Renegades, but Rick Neuhausel's a really good coach. And if anybody that watched the AAF in 2019, that was the only team that beat the Apollos that year. They were 5-3. He had a really good squad that year, so he's a really good coach for this. I think he'll do good with Dallas. And of course, you got Kevin Sumlin coming back. We'll see now with Talia Tagovailoa coming in. That's a really interesting pickup at quarterback. And then Chris Redmond with Louisville, another local star. And then Ricky Prohl with St. Louis. Of course, he was a star with the Rams, very legendary. So obviously with some of these coaches, you can see what their strategy is. People with ties, and of course we'll get to that with Birmingham here in a second. But what's kind of like your takeaway from kind of like the coach movement, really? Because like I said, Shannon Harris is the only guy coming back with his team from last year.
Well, I think a lot of this comes down to that it's something that they did this offseason was they redefined what the coaches' roles were, and they expanded it to be a full year position this time around, except the difference is, from my understanding, full-time position contracts pretty much stayed the same in a lot of like monetary value from what I have understood. And so you're asked to be more involved as more faces, ambassadors on a 24/7 scale, even in an off season, which I understand that completely. They've been seasonal workers for a lot, especially like the head coaches have been seasonal in that sense. And while they probably are doing the essential jobs on the side, working with GMs and kind of scouting out talent, they really haven't been ambassadors for this or really been active in the sense of like being out and available for the league. And I think that's what I'll give credit. Another Mike Repole thing I give credit in this sense, if it's a positive, is all right, we'll get these guys more active and keep ourselves in the news 24/7. It is a low attention span world we live in, Phil, and they got to stay in there, especially for the size of entity they are. And the football, you're fighting the NFL and getting college football fans and trying to find some sliver of that pie to get interest in as well. So that's tough. I think coaches came as part of that solution. And then you look at some of the coaches who are there. I know, for example, Bob Stoops. My understanding, Bob Stoops has been one of the most expensive coaches in any of these leagues since joining the XFL in 2020. He demands a high number, but he's very much a hands-off, no off-season kind of guy. He is an in-season, I'll help you in the basics, but I'm going to come in and coach, and I'm bringing in assistants and a big drove of them in bulk. Rick Neuheisel definitely is a guy more bought in, definitely is someone that I think is not done fully with football. Bob Stoops, I would say, he's climbed the mountaintop. He's done everything. Rick is like a perfect guy to come in and rejuvenate the Dallas franchise, which I said on another show, I think is a dark horse team that could go all the way. They just needed some coaching and I think a little more focus in that department to bring together what is a very talented roster with a lot of good skill players. They just keep losing games in these weird fashion or poor coaching decisions that I think need to change. So, I like Dallas's change. My team, if I was picking one, is Houston because the ref is Houston and I don't have a team, so I'm picking Houston. I can't believe they brought Kevin Sumlin back, but I also think it was just they didn't have someone and he was available, which if you follow Kevin Sumlin's college coaching career lately, he's not exactly being asked to come back to anywhere anytime soon. So he was readily available, and it's a familiar-ish name to a team that he coached for one season to a 3-7 record. So I hope the best. Some good talents on there, and I hope Talia Tagovailoa or whoever they get to start as well works out. But bear in mind, I'm very skittish about them as well. As for the other teams, another skittish one just because he's newer and no experience and seen this in the past. Chris Redmond, we'll find out. That's going to come down to a lot of the assistant coaches as well. And I'll make that quick so I'll have you talk about this too. I'm very much feeling that about AJ McCarron. Difference is that McCarron's roster at least was kept intact, and most of those guys are from the Skip Holtz era or some that have been quality NFL guys. They kept that part of their roster building still going strong. So I'm not as worried about them as I am like say Louisville. Columbus has some good talents, but again, Ted Ginn, he's very, very greenhorn to the scene in terms of a head coaching position. We'll find out. And then St. Louis with Ricky Prohl. Yeah, familiar-ish with the Beck system, but this roster feels like it's the weakest Battlehawks roster in the existence of the team. So I don't know. I don't know what to expect. I mean, Brandon Silvers will get the nod to start from what it sounds like. And Brandon Silvers is usually great for like the first 3 to 4 weeks of the season until defenses catch up and figure out what is going on. And then they start getting pressure on him. So we'll see what happens or if they switch out QBs. But I think a lot of it was I think they wanted a completely new slate. You can tell, Phil, it's about re-energizing and giving those people out there that are like, not aware the league exists right now to make it feel like it's brand new. The big shiny, like getting like the big shiny new television or like, getting that awesome new electronic or something like that. It's that feeling of a brand new thing. It's excitement. They want to just generate excitement and make it feel new. And so that's what happened with a lot of the rotating pieces. Beck just lives in Florida too, by the way. So that was easy for him, but that's the whole deal of this, It's just generating excitement, and then they also save a little cash on the side too. Let's be honest.
So with the AJ McCarron part of it, which I was completely against, I voiced my opinion. I posted on their Facebook post. I commented on it. And of course, then somebody jumped on me and said, "Is it because he didn't go to Auburn?" Like, I don't care where he went to college. It has nothing to do with it.
Thank God.
I mean, I just see a guy that's never coached before. Because even with, I looked at Ted Ginn and Chris Redmond, and Ricky Prohl, not a lot of coaching experience, but they have done some coaching things since they've quit playing football.
Yeah.
AJ McCarron has not done that. I mean, the guy just 2 years ago was playing for the Battlehawks. I mean, he is fresh off the field. And look, I think everybody keeps comparing with he played under Nick Saban and all that other stuff. And that's great, but he's never coached before. And that's a different exercise. And that's my concern. And I'm not exactly excited about his offense coordinator. I think, okay, if AJ is going to be your head coach, you need a veteran offense coordinator. So you went and got another podcast. I know the guy has coached before, but basically he's a podcast host in Mississippi. That's what the guy is doing.
No, that's a pretty simple but true statement, though.
I mean, so that's my concern. Now, the talent, this team has got talent offensively. I mean, I think Matt Corral has shown that what he's capable of. I think some injuries have hurt him there. And then look, Skip Holtz would look. He knew how to mess with the quarterbacks. If he had to pull one, he would. I guess before we get really into AJ, the Skip Holtz part, is that kind of like what you were kind of saying with like a Bob Stoops seasonal kind of guy? Because Skip was all about Birmingham, and he was always listening to him on radio shows in Birmingham, all over the state, how he really promoted getting the fans out. So you could tell he loved being in Birmingham, being the coach of that team. Was it like kind of the Bob Stoops deal, or what, do you think it was kind of a different situation?
Well, I wouldn't say, I don't think he was pulling in like Bob Stoops money from what I get, but when they're redefining the role, which, I mean, here's the thing, and I think we just have to talk this in a coach's stance, how willing are you to do a request that is basically, all right, we're not really going to change your pay. We're going to make you work longer though for it. And, we're also now reshuffling the league again for the really, I would say the second time in 3 years as well. And then also, by the way, we're not guaranteeing in public that we're keeping the team here, by the way, which, I mean, you saw reports, Phil, they were close to moving to Boise. They were talking about moving this team out of Birmingham and going to Boise just to reset until the Boise deal fell through because of the turf issues and they had to delay it. So, like, if you have all this stuff going on, you're thinking, all right, I might be moving to Idaho, which, Skip's never been out, is not really ever been out that way family-wise, So you got to keep that in mind. He's got to move away from his family for part of the year at that point. Now he's got to do more often a fuller year. Well, also would have to go to Boise if they moved. And you're being asked to work longer as well. The passion's for sure one thing. And I know some people had a theory that he was already kind of looking like he was going to quit after last year, looking frustrated on the sidelines and everything with the team. And maybe that was the case. But I think those factors, and you have that at the time, it was, like I said, there was uncertainty at the time when he left that Birmingham was going to be removed. So I feel like that's what forced him out personally. That and the demands of, we're going to need you to work even more time, possibly in a new market. I think that definitely was like, all right, I appreciate Birmingham. I always love Birmingham, but that's stressful, for a guy like that who, is kind of just trying to enjoy things. He's always expressed about enjoying this level of coaching. I could understand how that's not enjoyable anymore if you're getting yanked around like that and your deal's getting changed up, is my 2 cents. And that's a bit speculative, but that's how I read it to me. I don't think he wanted to leave. I just think that circumstances forced him out to where they're like, okay, well, I guess we'll just, if we stay in Birmingham, we got this. If not, we go to Boise and we figure it out from there.
And then we go to AJ McCarron.
Then we go to AJ McCarron.
Which I've heard him say on some radio spots he's done, that he's obviously given credit to what Skip Holtz has done. But he's also talked about, like you kind of said, like being a year-round, and really you're out, I hate to use this word, but you're almost being a salesman, because Birmingham, the issue has been attendance, and he's brought that up, getting more people in the stands. So we'll see if AJ being there. But, the team, especially offensively, they should be really good on paper.
They should.
Matt Corral coming back again, like I said, he has played well when he's been in there. Just Birmingham has had so many good quarterbacks. It's like it's the the richest team at the position in the league last couple of years when it comes to even backups. And then bring in Anthony McFarland, which I thought played well for San Antonio at running back. He was a good back for them. And then Deon Cain, not Superman, Deon Cain, and Marlon Williams coming in. And then Justin Ross was a guy that was super talented at Clemson. Jabri Barber is a guy. Now, this is a local flavor for me down in Dothan, Alabama. He played at the high school here. He played really well. Then went to Troy, Texas A&M. A very talented player. And then, they bring in Jaden Mickens, who's coming over from DC, a talented player.
Sir.
So offensively, this team should, again, on paper, be really good.
Oh yeah, without a doubt. I mean, they brought over a lot of the staples you would expect from previous seasons as well, and have done what Birmingham usually does. They'll restock, or they'll find some quality younger veterans or guys that want to play for them and have come on over. And I think that's what's great about them, is that they have built a culture of like, look, we are a successful team. We have never missed the playoffs. We have won 3 consecutive championships and then missed on what was essentially a blown game against Michigan, which, I mean, hey, I'm glad my Panthers made it. But I mean, it was a rough year last year for them because of injuries. They had to hobble through 4 different quarterbacks, multiple different positions having to get banged up. It was impressive that they got to the point they did last year off of that. So kudos to them. But that's one thing. Like I said, McCarron has, in terms of roster, it's a veteran roster. I think the question is, do you have that leadership? Do you have that leadership that I think Skip offered as well? I know Skip, it was a lot. It just can be a bit of it can be loud, hothead at times with his QBs and all that. But like him and his staff were very in tune with each other. I think that's really what people are questioning is, does AJ have the gravitas and the presence that Skip Holtz has on the sideline to make things happen and to make things happen in the moment and respond to the moment? That's one thing Skip was great at. Was always good under pressure, always good at finding the win through the loss. That's what we'll have to find out. That's what's different. Besides him being a full-time guy there, he's going to have to replace a guy that I know people joke about the attendance, but the diehard Birmingham fans at first, it was definitely a shock factor. A lot of people bought into McCarron now because of the Bama connection. So that's good. Are you going to start winning though? Because this is a team that's been winning and has been having attendance problems or for thereof, as the people have said. That's a bit more pressure now, for a team that's already kind of under the microscope, not only by the league in some standards, but just by general fans, because of the concept of multi-time champion isn't drawing like, I don't know, 15K. I mean, they draw 10K for most games. Sans the one was it Mother's Day, Easter Sunday last year, where they completely flopped on getting that scheduling. So like, I don't know. I hope things work out, because I love going down there for games and I love Birmingham. But he's got a lot of pressure riding on him to deliver for those that want the team there and for the league.
When you look at the league overall, and I just kind of look at some of the teams that should be good. You talk about Dallas with Luis Perez, who, argues the best quarterback in the league. But you got DC with Jordan Tiamu, coming back. You got your head coach coming back. You have a lot of consistency coming back with that team. Birmingham should be a good team. Who are you looking at as preseason favorites in your mind?
I would say right now, I got to throw in Birmingham. I like the roster. It's really just going to come down to coaching. I'll be frank. I really love their roster. Dark horse winner for me is actually Dallas. And I really do think that Rick Neuheisel coming in to, I think, re-energize that franchise is going to do a lot for them. So I'm very much on the Rick Neuheisel bandwagon. I've been dying to see Dallas/Arlington make the change at that spot, because it's been a glaring problem, as much as I respect Bob Stoops' legacy, but they needed a change. That was a one that I think most people have been thumbs up on. Can he deliver? We're going to find out. That being said, I do like the staff he's built, so we'll see. But I think I can't sit here and not mention DC as well. Personally, I know Birmingham and DC seems kind of cliche, but you look at the retention and also who's still there. And this is something that I can leave as consistency. These teams, they go through such a quick rotation in and out every offseason. You only get about 30 days for camps. This isn't a long time together, and they're usually 1-year contracts you're re-signing. So to have any cohesion in the roster is always, I think, something that people look at with these leagues. And it's shown there's proof in that too, that usually you bring together a roster back that was successful and it's adding pieces generally that stays successful or gets to a higher level of the next year. And that's DC's pretty much stayed the same. They haven't lost many of their key pieces. Birmingham's pretty much the same. And you can argue that Matt Corral now has the full reins and can kind of have pressure off his back and hopefully a coach that fits his style more. Cause we know he did not care much for Skip Holtz's style of, tough love coaching. So we'll see how that goes. And then Dallas, to me, like I said, Luis Perez is still there. He's gotten better every year. You look at those specialty players on his side that he can throw the ball to and who they have, and it's a wonderful stacked offense. Defensively, they have some ballers too. It's all about the coaching. It really has come down to the coaching and the decision-making in the last few seasons, sans their 2023 championship. And that's why I feel like that's different. I feel like Dallas is going to make the leap this year if they're going to do it, because it's a fresh start with the same guys and hopefully a new energy in the building as well. If I had to pick a new team just really off the top of the cuff, I'm intrigued by Louisville because I want to see what Jason Bean can do. There's been a lot of talk about him at QB. People have been really wanting to see him in this league, and now he's finally down here and should, I would think, in theory, begin the start. I haven't really read into it yet if he's got it all set up as the starter yet, but he seemed to be the front runner for that position. And then I also like Columbus because I'm a big Jalen McClendon guy. I predicted he was going to start last year for Houston, and he was the third stringer at the time, and he got the start. He was the best QB on the field last year for Houston, and I feel like he has a chance to ball, given that some of his guys from that Houston team came over to Columbus. It's going to come down to, how well adjusted is Ted Ginn and how good is this staff? I don't know enough about their defense per se right now, but I think that could be a fun team to watch. But I'll go with, honestly, I'm going to go with Dallas and DC to be in the championship. And I'm actually going to go and be ballsy. I'll be Dallas winning the championship. I'll go with that.
Well, the Cowboy fans can just jump over there so they can,
sure. That's easy.
For the final two questions here of the show, Zach is coming via his cell phone. Had a little internet issue there, but we are going to get this interview and this podcast out for the masses to enjoy. So Zach, anyways, final two questions. And then the first one was this: just you looking at this week one, what's the most exciting games for you?
I think I'm anticipating in St. Louis. If I want to reiterate what I was doing before my internet decided it didn't want me around anymore. I just honestly want to see what this Battlehawk squad's like without Anthony Becht and kind of with Brandon Silvers and company. I know a lot of people were shocked at how, I think, low energy it felt last year, and that I think they want to see a more explosive offense this season. I'm not sure if they'll do it, but also to see if DC comes out the gate strong, just like it did last year, and doesn't look like they missed a beat. But it's also a good rivalry game. These two teams have been bitter with each other in recent years. DC has had St. Louis's number in St. Louis since the two have been playing. So can St. Louis get over the hump and get a win against them in their own home building on opening weekend? So I think that's going to be fun. And then also, I think if we're talking atmospheres, just see what Louisville's like personally. Is Birmingham going to live up to the challenge as well, with them having to switch out coaches, but still having a pretty intact roster as well? We're about to find out. But I think those are my two favorites. Friday night kickoff's going to be big, and they're going to put a lot of stock into that one if they're the league. But also, I like the DC St. Louis rivalry too, and I think I always get grip for that game. So I'm stoked to see that week one.
Yeah, and I think over the years, because obviously with the Stallions, when USFL, the hub, they were at home. And I think some people kind of looked at they've not really gone into a high energy, tough environment often. And then, like you said, now without Skip, But I think I'm not saying that was a valid complaint. I just know there's been, I think, more of the XFL fan base had always said that about Birmingham. But anyways, my last question.
They did.
Oh, you go ahead.
Oh, I didn't have much more besides they did, but I mean, even then, Birmingham's won in environments like that last year. But I'll take it what it is. I'm one of the people that's, whatever about the split anymore is the thing.
I'm glad that's not there anymore. I'm glad that is gone.
Yeah. I'm glad too.
I think it divided the league in a way because with the
it just got annoying after a while. That's the thing. For me, it just got a little overkill. So I'm just glad it's back just being one league in terms of discussion.
Finally, my last question: new rules. I think a lot of intriguing rules are there. For me, the 60-yard field goal now being worth 4 points. I think that's a cool thing, and I think just from a coaching standpoint, the strategy of now if you get inside the 50, you can't punt the ball. How that's going to work? What of any new rules? Which ones are most exciting to you?
The 60-yard field goal immediately comes to mind. I like the idea that it's going to add some more strategy in how teams play this out, and it goes well in conjunction with the no punts beyond 50 rule because for the most part you only got two options at that point. You're either going to go for the ball or you're going to kick the field goal, and I think what it does is for those teams that get within that 60-yard range past the 50, do we risk a little bit more by getting two-thirds of a touchdown essentially under our belt with a good kicker? Do we trust our kicker enough? Do we have a good kicker that can kick that distance? Or do we go for it on the fourth? And I think those across the 50, we're just in enemy territory type of drives, I think that's what will make it fascinating for the strategy. And we'll learn, I think, pretty quickly in the first few weeks how coaches feel maybe on the analytics side or on maybe the opportunity side, what is available to them if they feel like it's worth doing that and they're consistently getting guys going 60 yards down the field and draining these between the pipes. I'm thrilled for those rules. I'll be honest with you. There was one or two I wish they didn't put in, but I've also realized, again, it's kind of like your taste for whatever. So I kind of am not as uppity on it. But I missed that they took away the 2-foot rule. I thought it was more professional. I thought it was better for film. Some people claim it's not. I think my question is I don't see how it isn't because it's NFL style. You're trying to get these guys to the NFL. So I don't really know how showing better body control is not a positive, but it's also more entertaining for the 1 foot for some people. So it is what it is. The one that I do want to talk about, Phil, because I just laugh at, it's more of a posturing rule and not even really anything based in fact or instance in the UFL, is they banned the tush push, which I just laugh because it's just many of us have looked. There's no instance that the tush push has ever been used in spring football in any capacity. They just did it to basically get in the mainstream and force themselves into an argument that they were never part of in the first place. So I just had a good laugh. Dean Blandino, this is very a personal Dean Blandino rule change. You could tell all offseason the NFL, he's hated the tush push. He doesn't like that. Apparently referees can't just see a false starter offsides and make a call, which I think is funny. But, he was so prideful that they got the tush push banned in the UFL for a league or leagues that's never used it. So good for them, I guess. It never was a problem, and now it's just it's going to be a throwaway point by after this week. I guarantee you.
Yeah. When I did, I was with you. I was like, I don't really remember any team really.
I just laughed because I'm who are we? Is this really that big a deal where we have to be it was a PR stunt to me. It didn't really do anything else. I know there's some claims on safety, but also, Phil, there's no data suggesting that the play is unsafe anyway. So it was a PR stunt, which I just had to bring up because I think that's laughable that they did it as a PR stunt instead of actually doing anything to base it on anything right now. So I couldn't leave the show without mentioning it.
Yeah, absolutely. I didn't even write it down because I feel like it was just I shook my head at that whole thing. Anyways, we'll see on this weekend. See if maybe how these games go. It's exciting.
Maybe someone will try it. I don't know. Maybe they'll be like, maybe they'll test Dean. Dean, you sure you're going to ban it? You sure you're just joking around?
Let's call your bluff. Let's call your bluff. But it should be fun, especially with
the field goal and punts, though, I think are much more. I think it takes away from that distraction personally. And honestly, my thing with the punt, Phil, I got to bring this up. A few of us are wondering, well, say you cross the 50 and you get a false start penalty or like something like that, or like say a snap infraction or something like that, and it takes you past the 50 back. Does it count if you crossed? And they did close that loophole that if you cross the 50 on your original down and distance, that you are forced into that situation no matter what. So like even if you have like a holding or like a personal foul or something, you still have to be committed because your original first down or down that got across it was as far as you got. So interesting to close that loophole because that could have been a cheat code for some teams to kind of like do a get out of jail free card, and they decided to close up. And I do like that call.
Yeah, because if you were kind of borderline, you could just say, okay, we'll get a delay a game, and then we'll just push ourselves back.
Oh yeah, I mean you could just do a fourth down and something, delay a game, and then punt it. Sure, you don't have the coffin corner, but like if you have a guy that can skyball the thing and you get your special teams down there, you can still plant it with inside the 20 and flip the position. So, it does close it up and it keeps it where you hopefully get scores more often like the league wants.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's going to be a fun 4 games this weekend along a lot of good sports stuff going on, but UFL kicking off will be here starting on Friday night where Birmingham travels to Louisville. Anyway, Zach, I appreciate you coming on. A lot of fun, kind of diving in what the UFL is going to look like. We did talk some X's and O's here as well, but if the listeners and viewers want to follow you, where can they find you?
Yeah, so we used to be the UFL podcast. So we changed things up, as you mentioned at the beginning of the show. It's now Boys Club Podcast, or we're calling it BCPC. So follow us on socials. Look for BCPC with the black logo on white text. Also on YouTube, we're trying to grow that audience because we're basically resetting that and letting the guys at our PFN channels kind of take the reins and go full steam ahead. So follow us on YouTube. Give us a subscribe on YouTube at BCPCHQ. And we've released 2 new episodes. We got tons of clips already out. Just check it out. It's football, it's gaming, it's whatever the heck we want to talk about that me and the ref are big fans of. It's just 2 friends chatting for 2 hours, and you guys are welcome to join in on the club.
All right, everybody go check it out. Good content as always from Zach and the ref. I'm sure he is ready and geared up for his gamblers.
He's already all in, Phil. You know that. He's already doing the 12-0s, the all
undefeated. I'm sure he's got them going undefeated as always.
Absolutely.
We'll see how it shakes out with them. But Zach, again, I'm sure we'll probably chat during the season, kind of check in how things are going with the UFL. But I appreciate you coming on, and I look forward when you do this again.
Great talking to you, Phil. As always, have a good one.
All right. Once again, thanks to Zach for coming on the show. Appreciate him coming on. Always enjoy talking UFL with him. Great 40-minute conversation there with him. All right. So real quick, before we get out of here, some cool Auburn football news. They've got an addition to the team. Chris Murray granted another year eligibility. He was with the team this past year, 3.5 sacks, 15 total tackles. He will be returning to the team, which is a big win for Auburn, with NCAA stuff and all that. So adds another pass rusher, with Keldra Fall, Keon Crawford leaving to go to the NFL, having some pass rushers for Auburn big, and Chris Murray, you would figure he would factor more into that element of the Auburn defense next year. So huge addition for Auburn going into next year. And that's going to do it for this edition of the Phillip Jordan Show podcast. I hope you enjoyed this episode. A lot of fun. We kind of jumped around a lot here in the state. Not always just Alabama. We jump into Florida teams too, but kind of get back into it, get back in rhythm. Be back next week. Maybe we'll be talking about Auburn competing for an NIT championship. We'll see what Alabama does against Michigan in the Sweet 16 and much more. Remember, you can follow me on social media at PJordanSport. Find the podcast, Apple Podcast, Spotify, wherever you listen to podcasts. If you're on Apple Podcasts, please follow, rate, and review. And the Phillip Jordan Show is also on YouTube at the Phillip Jordan Sports YouTube channel. So please go and check that out as well. Anyways, hope everybody has a great weekend. Enjoy the Sweet 16 Elite 8, the UFL. Spring practice is going on. A lot of stuff is going on right now. And we'll talk about it next week. Anyways, till next time. Bye-bye.